Welcome to another edition of Cherry Red TV, and welcome to meet an old friend of Cherry Red's, Jah Wobble.
And an old friend of you. You're responsible for me going to Cherry Red.
Am I?
Yeah.
It's my fault.
I was in Travel Lodge Euston, which is not a particularly nice place, but I think it's when they'd introduced coffee machines for the first time, so that was a bonus.
Right.
And you said to me about maybe sending the catalogue to Cherry Red.
Right.
Maybe even doing a book for them, which never happened. I did that elsewhere, but we ended up doing a deal. So and that was probably
2010?
6 or 7 years before we actually done the deal. Yeah.
Okay,
so it come through our friendship.
Yeah.
My connected with you with Trojan and Sanctuary and all that.
From back in the day.
Where did it all go wrong with Sanctuary? Don't tell me.
That's another story.
And then we ended up, going to Cherry Red. And of course, I've now become really good friends with Ian and Adam and all that. So as they say, I'm part of the Cherry Red family.
You are definitely part of the family.
Yeah.
And back doing a new album as well, which again was a sort of happy accident.
I need to because the catalogue's probably not made any money. So
I don't know
I've got to do something.
Could possibly come in, right?
Yeah.
So we have this new record called Mystic Liverpool, which is you and your boys doing covers of the psychedelic era Beatles songs. So I thought it'd be nice, because it's such a family affair, maybe talk about the connection with Liverpool and you meeting Zeelan, and obviously he's involved with the Chinese school here. So how did you meet Zeelan?
Right, met Zeelan in Finland, I think 91 or 92. It was the day of the year when it's daylight and all the Finns go mad because they're all very depressed, a very depressed race. I think the suicide rates are higher there than anywhere else. And they all go berserk on that day. And I met her in Finland. And then she, got to know her, touring around. I'd see her. She was doing a lot, playing on some of the festivals. And when I asked her where she was from, and I could hear she had a slight accent. She had a little bit more of a Scouse accent than now, I think, but she had a little Scouse, and I thought there was a bit of Liverpool in there, isn't there? You know? And I thought she probably had to come from Hong Kong, but it turned out, because you didn't meet many. The only person I'd met from mainland China, as we used to call it in them days, was on an aeroplane when you could still smoke, sitting at the back of the plane. Don't know where we were, somewhere in the Far East, probably going to Hong Kong or Japan or something, and there was a delegation of Chinese workers, and they were all smoking as much as me, and I got on famously well with them and was exchanging Chinese cigarettes for English cigarettes, and British cigarettes. And that was the only, so this was the first time I met, because you didn't meet not many people. Most of the Chinese here were Cantonese from Hong Kong. They run all the restaurants and all that. So anyway, we met, and she'd been the little girl in China, Cultural Revolution, waving the red flag and all that. Comes here, her dad starts to run the Pagoda Chinese Youth Orchestra at the Pagoda Centre that I think Lady Di and Prince Charles.
And this is in Liverpool?
In Liverpool, yeah. That's in L1, Henry Street, like Chinatown, sort of like in the middle of Liverpool.
Yeah.
I think that was like 82 or 83, something like that. Anyway, she then come over with her mum and her sister and settled here. So she was the little girl that come from quite an authoritarian society, which I agree with. I agree with authority and things being, waving a red flag.
Do what you're told.
Do what you're told, yeah. So, And she comes to Liverpool, goes to a comprehensive somewhere here where all the kids, the teachers are telling the kids what to do, and they go, no, I'm Andy, I'm not going to go, and all that. And she was, oh my God, they're saying no to the teachers. So that was her first
eye-opener.
Kind of eye-opener to do with them. And she loves the city. She now runs Pagoda herself,
Of course, yeah.
So we got together, we're very relaxed together. We had a couple of, two sons, John and Charlie.
Yeah.
We're living in London, first of all, and then moved up here to basically had to get out of town. It was because in London, if you wanted to live in a nice area, you needed then 300 grand or something, and being a musician, you can't risk, so it all demographic change and everything going on. Like a lot of people, since I've gone low, tons of people have left London now, you know. So there were 3 areas to live. South Coast, I like Saffron Walden, Essex, M11, get down to see Tottenham easy. I'm still addicted to those tossers, but whatever. And ended up there because I thought, well, this would be nice. I can live anywhere, be near the grandparents, because I knew then the boys would get the Chinese cultural influence strongly, and I knew they'd be very, very family orientated. So that's why I kind of went with that. And I knew with my family, it was, we all grew up in 1 square mile of the East End, basically in Stepney, sort of Stepney Whitechapel, and it's just dissipated. Again, back to the demographic change in London was unbelievable. So everyone, they ended up mainly in Essex, but then they've gone further and further out now, Australia and all that. So it just changed very quickly, as things can do in life. Yeah. So there wasn't any. I knew you couldn't tap into a helpful family structure at that point with my family. My extended family, I've got a lot of time for, by the way. They're good people, but they're all over the shop, and you end up not knowing I've got lots of first cousins. You end up not knowing their kids' names and all that. But so we came up here, and the boys started going to the orchestra.
Did you find a sense of community with that and with the school and with Zealand's family that maybe had been lost in London, do you think, in some ways?
Well, yeah, I didn't. I was only thinking of the boys. But then I must admit, when we got married in Manchester for some reason. Because we knew the restaurant owner, a big restaurant there, so we knew we could have, we could have to do there. And I think it just dawned on me. I wasn't thinking of myself for once, because I'm not necessarily normally my first thing. What do I want? So I was thinking really of the boys, but then it really, when you get married, and I remember you have a sort of tea ceremony of sorts, you go and pour tea, you go round to her parents' house and you pour tea. And he gave me a little speech about, that's it, you're now in the family. No matter what you've done or what you do, you're now in the family, you're accepted. And that was like, wow. And I had a tear in my eye. I hadn't expected that. I'd only had that when I went to AA. I went to Toynbee Hall, breaking my anonymity here, but it's the way it was, And, you're in the right place, son. Have you turned night to day, son? Listen, son, take the cotton wool out your mouth, son, and put it in out your ears, son, and put it in your mouth, And I remember there just thinking, God, with all these old jocks and paddies, and I feel really at home, So it was a very strong feeling of connection. That's when the turning point came for me, was then, And so it was one of those things where I don't think I've ever really said that to Zealand, but I welled up and, you feel really connected to something, Yeah. Now, with the Liverpool context, with this city, with all the demographic change that happened in London, I recognise something with Liverpool. It's the nearest thing to the East End. And a lot of my pals have said that over the years who come, because my mate, they're all old now, would go over Tottenham and they'd go to grab a granny nights in provincial sort of towns. That's a sexist thing to say, I know, but, that's what they used to call it, grab a granny. And, and these geezers wouldn't be up to much either. So let's get that straight. You know what I mean? The older women probably looked a lot better than the geezers, Yeah. But it was a different era, So I remember that they'd love to go to places where they say to me, it's great up north. You can go to a nightclub, have a dance, and eat a bag of chips in the gaff.
Yeah, that's it.
And all that,
What's
dance
not to like?
And all that,
Yeah.
And they all said the nearest place to the East End was Liverpool, which is not strange because it's port town. So you've got that port thing, the seaman thing, the transitory thing, and then tough people, working off the docks, scrabbling for work, the way dockers had to over the years. Everyone talks about the dockers, but just as the dockers started to get a softer life, that it took away from them in London because of the, containerisation. But so everyone I met in Liverpool back then was from Scotty Rolls, So I knew Scotland Road. I went drinking up there. I think when I first come up here, done a gig with Human Condition round about 1980. I think I'd already been up here. The first times I come to was for football, and it was against Everton. I can remember one time Animal were me guitarist, he's a West Ham fan, but he come with me. We were doing a gig, I think, somewhere in Yorkshire, and we come over at the football. I think maybe an FA Cup tie, I can't remember. And there was a scrap. I was quite game. And I stopped the scrap because it was some Spurs fans being bullies, to be fair, coming away, and just 2 or 3 Liverpool boys, and then mounting them. Liverpool Scousers were standing up themselves. So me and Animal sticked it, you know, he was quite game. And we said, oh, fuck off, leave them alone. Like, because you ain't proving anything. I ended up drinking with them. So they said, oh, good, you want to come drink? So we all went for a drink all round Liverpool with them on a Saturday, you know, after the football. And I think we might have missed our last train even. So we just stayed with them. We had no plans to, but this thing happened and we got talking and that was it. So I always kind of connected here. The humour's fantastic, you know, really spot on, you know, kind of surreal, which I love. Everyone gets the humour, which is great. So,
yeah,
you know, that was a good thing. So that kind of felt good, you know, when we come to. I wanted to live in Liverpool. Zealand was concerned about living in Liverpool at that point. She said, "We want to move up north. I'll live anywhere. I don't want to actually live in Liverpool," because she was the translator for the family. I don't think it was anything, you know. She knew if she lived here, she'd be having to fill out driving licence forms. That's what it's like with immigrant families, you know. You become that you're the main go-to
wanted some
person.
Distance. Yeah.
Just wanted not to have to be filling out forms for people and giving advice to, you know, all the not you know, looking down at anyone, but she'd learned English. She learned English with a woman, Trinidadian woman. Can't remember her name now. I've never met her, but she loved her. She was the woman that sort of grabbed her and said, "You're going to learn English," and was really tough with her. So she learned English. So, you know, she could read, you know, speak very good English, as well as Mandarin and Cantonese and everything, you know. So the trouble when you're like that with immigrant family, it'd be like it's Spanish-speaking people in America. When the first part comes over and the first 1 or 2 people start to really get a home and learn, everyone will go to them to get forms translated or whatever. Anyway, whatever. So
when did Zealand take over the Pagoda School then?
Her dad died, I think it was 2013.
Right.
He'd been ill for a while with leukemia, God bless him. And so she was running it for quite a while, sort of before then anyway.
Yeah.
She'd always often clashed with them. They were very alike.
Were you involved in the school in some way, shape or form, or did you?
No, not at all, really.
But of course, you'd done this Chinese dub album as well, which feels like a little bit.
Well, that was the first connection with it. Was the boys would come back and they'd practice their tunes like do 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 do, you know, these Chinese melodies, and I deliberately, just to annoy them, started do 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 dum da back that do back dum do 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 rack tum tum do 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 dum chaka good, and they're dad, shut up, it's not the way to do it. And Zealand sort of says to me, you like this stuff, don't you? And I said, yeah, I do. I really do like it. She said, you want to do something with the orchestra? And that was the first time.
That was the Chinese dub album.
Yeah, that was. So yeah, 2000. By the time that would have been probably 2007, building up to Liverpool Capital Culture 2008.
Right.
So the idea was just to record some tracks, but then we ended up doing a tour, you know, and all that.
It was a really successful record.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It won. I think I've never won an award. I won the World Music of the Year award or something, you know, with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So fast forwarding to this new album, what inspired that? Did that come from you wanting to do a record with Charlie and John, or was that just your love affair with Liverpool, or what was the inspiration for that?
Well, it was like a circle being squared, really. Something kind of set it. You know, Liverpool's become like the adopted. That's now the family home for my son. John, my oldest boy, lives here.
Yeah,
you know. And all, so that's one. So you got this of the family, Liverpool, making a connection with Liverpool. The Beatles, the guy who was responsible for it was my father-in-law, responsible for them coming here. My late father-in-law, Craig Hong Lee. So he was, as I said, he came here, run the orchestra. Then Zealand and her sister and her mum come over. So there's the big Liverpool connection. There's Liverpool. And then there's the Beatles for me. So my story with the Beatles is one that when I was a little boy, sort of 5 years of age, 1963-ish, I think when West Ham beat Preston 3-2-ish, that's the first cup final I can remember, and I wanted the Preston to win, which is ironic because they wore white and blue, which is what Tottenham's people don't know. It's Preston, turn of the century, 19th to the 20th, wore white shirts and blue shorts, which is why Tottenham, they had lots of good Scottish players who were good on the ball, good ball players, and that's why Tottenham wear white. Anyway, I digress. So I wanted them to win. I was the only one who wanted the Northerners to win. It was all West Ham and a couple of Millwall fans watching it on the telly. They won 3-2. And what I remember around that period was the Beatles, all the little girls at primary school loved them, all singing, yeah, she loves you, yeah, 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 and all that. And the mums and dads loved them, the uncles and aunts, everybody loved them. They thought the world of them because they were clean-cut, working-class boys, and they thought they were fantastic, and they loved the tunes. As a kid, somehow, I was already connected with music, but you don't articulate any of this. It's looking back. I just didn't really like it. I didn't understand, why does everyone really like this? It's like maybe if you taste food, everyone else is going mad about, and maybe you haven't got a developed palate at that point, but you don't. It just doesn't feel sort of, it just don't taste that good to me, And I just thought, I don't really like, not mad on this. And then the point came 67-ish, and they were going to India, growing their hair, smoking dope. Yoko Ono was on the firm, and family went completely against them, and everyone, they're on drugs now, and they didn't like Yoko Ono, Eastern Temptress, who'd got in the middle of it all and all that, And I can tell you a story then. My old man, we lived in Smithy Street, just round the corner from where Stalin, Trotsky and Lenin planned the Russian Revolution. Stalin didn't hang about for long. He pulled some rich bird, ended up at the West End. And we know what happened to Lenin and Trotsky in the end. But anyway, it's another story. So we lived in Smithy Street. We had a rented telly. And I remember my dad and my Uncle John, my mum's brother, watching that. And it must have been Ready, Steady, Go. I think that's the programme with from the 60s. I think it was called something like that. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. It was something like Ready, Steady, Go or something. Famous programme at the time.
All You Need Is Love. Was it an All You Need Is Love promo or not that one?
No. This was Rolling Stones. This is what I'm telling you the background of this. Yeah. This is at the time when they would have loved the Beatles, when they were clean cut. Rolling Stones come on, and I remember Johnny. I haven't got that many vivid memories, but I remember this because I'm just watching them, fascinated, listening to what they're saying. They have a very strong reaction against the Rolling Stones, and Johnny says, this is what I remember. I know I wouldn't use a firing squad. It's a waste of manpower. Sort of. He didn't say that, but looking back, that's what he meant. I was just one bullet in the back of the head. And my old man, who was an El Alamein veteran, they both got their beer, just shook his head and went, no. Like as if to say, don't be stupid. You just use them for mine clearance. And so whenever I see the Rolling Stones from that day on, I think of them out under the barbed wire in the desert with bayonets, checking for mines. Whenever I see him,
prancing around.
I think of that.
Bloody hell.
So that was a very conservative attitude, and also, that's it. I remember the first thing they said about unwashed queers, which is what a thing to say, unwashed queers. So that was the sort of social background at that time, And so obviously the Beatles very clean cut at that point. Then when that changed, they then hated them as well.
Yeah.
And the thing that marked that period for me was Strawberry Fields, the track which came out in about 67.
Yeah.
And I loved that. It was a great, fantastic track, I realise now how special it is. It was 2 tracks spliced together. It's completely surreal. But they all hated them, and you couldn't admit to liking that, but I secretly loved it. And in those days, you had heavy rotation with a track like that. I think it was released as a single before any album came out.
Correct.
So it was fantastic. So I just loved it. It did something to me. It's that classic sort of psychedelic thing, broke down barriers, you know. So I think whenever you feel a sense of bliss, there's a decrease in the feeling of being an individual being. Do you know what I mean? You know, and you just become, you're sort of one with, you know, with everything. Something it's a bit corny, but there's a dissipation of ego, you know. And as a kid, obviously, you just think this feels delicious. This is just a wonderful feeling, you know.
So with the album, were Charlie and John Beatles fans? Had they grown up with the Beatles, or was this?
Well, this was the thing I should have said right at the beginning. That's what I meant to say. The thing that squares the circle is with all this. This is the very thing. Craig Hong Lee, the reason the family is in Liverpool, was a huge Beatles fan.
Right. Okay.
That's the thing, and he had all their albums.
Right.
That's the thing. I missed a crucial part of the jigsaw. So the boys would have heard him playing the Beatles, were very aware of the Beatles. They had a big Chinese music influence, an influence of dub with me. Obviously, dub is a large part of this record. It's a very dubby kind of record.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because dub counts as a psychedelic form of music to me because it's very spacious. When you think of psychedelics, you think of this dissipation of self-centeredness and you have this open awareness comes in with space. With space comes silence almost. So you're listening to music, but there's a feeling of silence and presence somehow when it's really working, you know. So that was definitely part of it. So, yeah, they were very aware of it. They work as a duo, Tian Qiyi, but obviously the record is Jah Wobble and Tian Qiyi, so they're a duo. Qiyi is their Chinese names are John Qiyi and Charlie Ree, so Qiyi. In the spelling, it's like the Mandarin phonetics, not so it gets complicated. You know, you can't. So it's their names in Mandarin, the phonetic sounding of the name Qiyi.
Right.
Sometimes Q's look like C's, and I still don't get it all. You know, the Mandarin speaking it is all different tones as well. So a bit of Cantonese I know, but anyway, they have developed a sound. They're doing a lot of jazz stuff at the moment, but the core thing of their sounds, they've got Mongolian heritage as well as Chinese. So there's a lot of drones. A lot of that stuff pertains towards trance sort of states. And that was the thing about the choices of tracks, the stuff kind of Indian flavoured, Within Without You. Tomorrow Never Knows even a little bit, you know, it's got that vibe. So there's a kind of droney, Eastern, you know, very modal sort of feel to it. So it's right up their street, you know. And they chose the tracks with me because I just put it in, you know, just choose some stuff, you know.
And how did you go about recording it? Did you do it in a studio? Was it more like
John's studio? Yeah, John works at Pagoda and he's got his own studio at home. He's really good. They're both good with audio logic, and this is it now. That's your studio. You don't necessarily have a sense of centre now with studios. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you going to tour this record? Are you going to play some of the tracks live?
We'll be definitely playing some. Yeah, because they're quite easy to knock 2 or 3 of them off. You know, wherever. So yeah, I'm sure we will be.
Right.
And I have to say that with that, my favourite Beatle was George Harrison. Everyone had a favourite Beatle. Mine was George Harrison. Because at 15, I worked in a library. It was the first, my sister got me the job. It was like part-time at Bancroft Road Library. And I got sacked. I got 3 warnings, 3 strikes, and I was out by Mr. Vincent. So the first one was called doing yoga. And in that Indian section, I got hold of the Upanishads, sort of Vedic scriptures in a way, and I loved that. And then it caught me talking to users, as they were called, not clients, users, because you had this thing where you had to be stern with the users. It was, you know, it was a very grand library, Bankrock in Stepney. And then a load of old Jewish blokes used to go in there, and they'd be leftists of various kinds. So some would be tanky, tankies were the ones who believed in violent intervention, Stalinistic sort of, you know, going in with a tank and taking control, you know, in order to impose communist ideology. So I maybe was getting them at it a bit deliberately. They started arguing, and it was tantamount to like arguing in church. You know, you didn't make any noise in churches or libraries in those days. So Mr. Vint just called me in his office and I said, "You're done." You know, so I was sacked. And funny enough, I ended up as ambassador for London libraries. And I spoke at a conference, and they said that if I did that now, you'd get promoted, promoting yoga in a library and all that, you know.
Yeah,
So
right.
that was it. How did I get onto that?
Don't know, but you mentioned about your favourite Beatle being George Harrison.
Oh, that's it. So the Upanishads. So I connected with the Upanishads. Bhagavad Gita, which I reread again in the 90s, and Bhagavad Gita was a huge, huge influence on me, you know. So George Harrison, I felt, was absolutely the real deal. I've always felt he was the guy that most got that, you know, the Hare Krishna thing and everything. So, you know.
So if you had to pick a Beatles recording or song, would it be Strawberry Fields?
It'd be Strawberry Fields, yeah.
Right.
Because it just had such a huge effect. There's been, if you said to me, what's your favourite dub record, it'd be King Tubby meets the Rockers Uptown. Yeah. Funny enough, with that, from what I know of that record with King Tubby, most dub records are just the multi-track tape remixed, but with the vocals out or spliced in and tape echoes being brought in and out and all that stuff, you know. And that was one record. I think it was Jacob. Is it Jacob Miller?
Yeah, I think
Baby,
so.
I love you so. But if you hear the dub version, it just doesn't sound like that backing track because he edited. So it's splicing and editing. So a bit like, it's like a kind of alchemy, really, you know, somehow. So that'd be these cathartic moments. Gorecki's Third Symphony, you know. Another, you know, you know, you're taking old Polish songs from the mountain region in Poland, but converting it with a classical orchestra, and it's just so heartfelt, kind of like wipes you out, you know. So, and you get these instances, so it would have to be Strawberry Fields.
Right, okay. So we're going to ask a few quick fire questions now to wrap up. First record you bought that you can remember?
Ever? Oh, well, I can't answer simply, I'm afraid. The first record was Jim Reed's Welcome to My World. Dum, doo, dum, doo, dum, dum. But I think it was under pressure from me mum. Used to buy the records from Paul's record stall outside Whitechapel next to the fish stall, just about the best location in the market. And he had Paul's records in Cambridge Heath Road round the corner as well. And, well, I used to get reggae pre's and soul pre-releases and all that. But the first song I really bought of my own volition was Bell Ives, Froggy Girls Are Golden One Fight, which is skiffle, believe it or not. And I love that. And then there was, I think the tune I loved the most, I think it might be Joe Loss Orchestra. I mistakenly thought it was the theme tune to Animal Magic, but da, 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 da. Apparently I drove everyone mad singing at 6 o'clock in the morning as a little kid, you know.
Brilliant. Favourite thing about Liverpool?
The people. Yeah, the people. And the Mersey. You know, when I'm in London still, I love the Thames. It's not a working river anymore, but the people. They're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, humorous, tough, come through a lot. Unfortunately, East London, you know, everyone with Thatcher, I was going to swear. I thought Thatcher was the worst fucking thing that ever happened. Fucking spiteful cow, basically. And fuck this country up, attack the working classes. Made it easier for smack to get into communities. Everything, you know, there's no such thing as society, which is the non-view of Buddhism. There is no interdependency. That's what that's saying. You are.
Well, it's the Ayn Rand sort of individualist. Everyone's like their own economy.
Everyone's their own economy, so you're separate. It's the polar opposite to the psychedelic vibe, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's really horrible, you know? And I think what she done here was probably worse than anywhere, you know, because it was a real hotbed of socialism, you know? And I was socialist, you know, so I was on the picket line of Wapping back in the day, saw a lot of violence there and everything. I'm not now, you know. I'm not now. You know, it's just a different time now. I haven't voted Labour since 1992, but I hated Thatcher. John Smith was the last Labour guy I believed in. And I'm not saying that Tony Blair was all bad or any fault. There were some good policies there, just weren't, not my clan, you know. So, yeah, it's the people of Liverpool. They're sort of kind of rebellious and humorous, and they live by water, and that's what defines them. So there's a movement in and out, people settling. That's the stock I come from. There was probably here, it's more Dublin, and I know Belfast and all that. In the East End, it used to be from Cork. There was a steam packet used to come in every couple of weeks from Cork. So that's the way they come, and they settled in Pennington Street in Wapping. So over the names of Whitechapel, all these names of the streets, Jamaica Street just come down. Well, I grew up in Jamaica Street in London. It's all port stuff, you know. And so my mum's side got to Pennington Street, which is where the boat docked, basically, was Tobacco Dock. And I was like, they must have been thick. They never made it. No, I shouldn't say that, but they never made it further away. They settled in Pennington Street. Talk about lazy. Like, yeah, this will do. We're off the boat. Stay here. Yeah, you know, just off the boat. This will do. Yeah, on the quay. We'll stay here.
Right,
you know?
yeah.
And my old man's family, up to him, because of the war, he couldn't do his apprenticeship on the river. But his brother was a Catholic priest, Terry. And then John, their other brother, died. He fell in the water, and fished him out. They say he was taken to the Dockers Hospital. Probably wasn't treated right and died of pneumonia. Well, I'm named after him, so some sort of heavy karma there to start with, you know. Right. But so that's the identifications, you know, the water, the spirit, the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, you know. Yeah.
So the other thing to ask you, can you remember again, I think we've asked you this before, but the first time you picked up a bass guitar, can you remember that moment and what prompted it and how it happened?
Probably not the very first time, but it would have been in a druggy old squat in Warwick Road. Keith Levine was in that squat. It was a very heavy druggy scene. You know, I think that was filthy. There was lots of heroin. Sharp, because around that time, you know, the Shah of Iran was in the process. I don't think it had been deposed as such, but people were getting their money out in the 70s from Iran, and it ended up taking the form of heroin. So the price of heroin plummeted. Heroin up to that point was a preserve of there was probably 1,000 registered heroin addicts, and they used to have to go to doctors to get their script, you know. A lot of intelligent sort of students were like that, you know, they ended up as heroin addicts. Remember in Get Carter, Harry Kane's character,
Michael
Caine's character.
Yeah.
He goes to the bridge, to the bloke on the bridge, doing a swing bridge in Tyneside to buy heroin. It's like buying plutonium or something.
Yeah.
It's really a big deal to get the heroin, you know. But in the 70s, as it flooded in, the price of it dropped, and so lots of people I knew become smack addicts. My best mate Ronnie did, you know, because it plummeted. So there was a lot of heroin around. So anyway, that was the sort of, I would have picked the bass up. Sid would have been there. I played, I would have been doing the dub line, and he would have said that shit. And he was doing Ramones, and I think that's shit. You know, it's like, you know, that's kind of really lightweight. You know, this kind of just pulsing behind the, whereas I'd be hearing it, you know, different kinds of beats. And then I got hold of a Music Man copy with a little amp and a lead, and ended up in the squat in Borough. Ended up on my own because I set fire. My mates come round, Vince and Brian and Ted, set fire to Ted's been enemies. Brian and Ted was our mate. Ended up setting fire to some furniture. It's a bit like, there was a script in The Young Ones, apparently, but we broke it up. Trouble is when you break, you got varnish on it. It's a bad smell. Somebody comes back in the room, because there was a fireplace there, you know, but it weren't my furniture. That was the thing. And it was freezing cold. I think maybe they'd cut the electric off outside or something, whatever. So, you know, it was a stupid thing to do, you know. And it caused a big scene with the guy, you know, who I don't know if it was his, I can't remember, but he weren't happy. And he attacked me in a North London public house, you know. And he had every right to. It was quite a savage fight. And he had every right to be annoyed with me, you know. But funny enough, when he's still a good mate of mine, you know. And I was checking something else out with him, and he said, "Yeah, I've got to tell you, it wasn't just about the furniture." You know, I ended up whacking him with a pool cue, and I thought, please go down. He was a really better fighter than me. I'd had to fight a rearguard action. He smacked me over. It was he's going to kill me, you know. And I fell down by a billiard table, and it was a pool cue. So I just come up with a pool cue and whacked him. And I thought, please, he didn't go down. He just went, fucking just. I thought, please don't come back. You know what I mean? But anyway, he's a really funny bloke. He's a lovely bloke, Tony. One of my favourite people. He was a really funny bloke, and he was telling me it was because of another mate of mine, Scabs, who was a bloke he'd have a pewter jug sort of thing, punky all leather jacket. He'd go into tough pubs and smash the thing, his mug down. Pint of your best cider, please. And not many people drunk cider then, you know. So, and that, of course, in pubs in the 70s, people in the corner, who's this fucking geezer think he is? So you could get into a row with him, you know, over him, you know. It was just a liability to knock about with him, you know. So we ran there. I ran out of money, so I very quickly sold the amp and the lead to get money for Valium because I was doing blues. Up to that point, we would buy very strong sulphate, mainly in Kentish Town, had the best sulphate, a pub there, you know. I think made by a chemistry student in a bath somewhere. I don't know the process, but it was very, very powerful. Obviously, look back now, to make yourself that high is so bad. So young people, so really a mug game, a very bad thing to do, you know, terrible thing to do. Really, really terrible thing to do, you know. And but I'm on Speckley Blues. Very sad, really. There's not, when you think I'm 18 years of age in a squat, you know, on my own, and the other people have got fed up with me. So the furniture's been burnt or taken away. There's a mattress. The headboard of the bed's still there. And I would hold the Music Man copy with a very high action and play like that. And it would make a vibration through the wood, you know, which actually was good. You know, so I'd sold the amp to get money for Valium, actually, for the come down and cider, which is the cheapest drink, which Scabs probably got me into. It's a cheap option, yeah, you know, you could knock it back, you know, just to calm the come down. They were Speckley Blues. The brown bits were supposed to be strychnine. I don't know how true that is, but they did give you a bit of a gut ache, and they took you up, but not as high as the other drug, and you come down quite heavy with them. So, you know, anyway, it's ridiculous drug taking is a very bad, you know, and very sad. I was a classic NEET at that point, not in education, employment or training, you know. So I did get a bass book, So You Want to Learn Bass. It had things like American Patrol in it, but I didn't bother with that. I just knew what I wanted to do, which was make patterns. And I used open strings and the dots to make, you know, either on playing fourths or fifths, or I did a lot of octaves. So you would use the frets to make a pattern. And funny enough, when you do that, it falls into being quite modal, or it falls into being sort of E minor or A minor, which are probably the most popular, especially E minor pentatonic, A minor pentatonic. Probably 80% of pop songs are in both those keys. So by sort of like, no, I only realised that sort of many years later, you know. So that was the first time that I feel that's the first time I really made a relationship with a bass was there, you know.
And do you remember writing the riff for Public Image?
Yeah, that was one of the first lines. The first two that I've really cut, I think, were Religion, and then Public Image, which is a very simple. I mean, honestly, isn't it funny? You know, I was a novice player. It was just so simple. I think half the beauty with Public Image Limited as a founder member was that I was able, they let me do my thing, and they understood it. It was good. It was bass-led. And they didn't, and to be fair to Keith, who could be a really annoying person, you know, I got on with him, mate. Most people think, hey, we used to really get on, but obviously he's a junkie, so he'd wind you up as well at times, you know, obviously. But you know, we actually really got on. We'd have a good laugh. We didn't have the same social circles. Occasionally, me and him wouldn't see each other weeks, be together in the studio, have a laugh, and really make something. Such a shame he spoilt it for himself, you know, with drugs. But I was just so fortunate to be in a band where the novice, the guy that knows least, is allowed to lead. And also, you're in a context is where all the circumstances are favourable. You're in a circumstance where you haven't got proper tough management. Imagine if you had a Peter Grant or tough manager. You're not doing that, you know. I'm not saying Peter Grant was bad, you know, but, you know, a tough manager with probably
there was a freedom. There was a freedom.
You go and write songs, proper songs. It's Peter Grant when it was the manager.
Led Zeppelin.
It was tough, right? Those tough guy managers wouldn't let you get away with that because they were tough, you know. And the record company would normally, no, we're not having to. Yeah, we're going to give you a producer. We didn't have a producer. You know, they tried to give us a producer. We wouldn't deal with it, you know. And so the circumstances meant we could get away with being completely self-indulgent and come up with Metal Box as the second album, you know.
Yeah, right.
So that's kind of what happened. So I was very, very fortunate in that, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the new album because obviously it's about to drop. So there are 2 singles, I believe, 2 digital singles.
Tomorrow Never Knows, 16th of June. Strawberry Fields, 14th of July. Then the actual album, Mystic Liverpool, is out on August the 14th.
That's right, and it's on CD and obviously streaming as well.
Streaming, yeah. I think it'll be on vinyl at some point as well.
Right, okay.
Yeah. But we're very surprised if it isn't.
And am I right in thinking if people order it from the Cherry Red website, there's a signed postcard or something?
That's right, signed postcards, me and the boys, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. All right, well, listen, John, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, John. Thank you.
No, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, mate.